new season.
You're listening to Arkansas Preps Weekly on Natural State Sports, your top source for the biggest news in high school sports across Arkansas.
And here we go.
What is up, everybody? Thanks for joining us on episode 75 of Arkansas Preps Weekly here on the Natural State Sports Network. My name's Kyle Sutherland, and it is state tournament week. Just a couple more weeks left in the 2025 prep baseball season, as we'll have 6 different locations hosting state tournaments, and then we will finish up the 2025 season the following week at the Weekend of Champions on the campus of the University of Central Arkansas. We will have the baseball guru Kevin Bohannon in just a second. Before we do get started, I want to remind everybody who makes the show possible. So we'll pay the bills, as they say, real quick, and give a quick shout out to our friends at Athletic Field Service of Arkansas. Jeremy Rice and his crew have you covered on any type of natural service that you need maintenance, natural surface services on the natural surface there. Call Jeremy and his crew today at 501-416-1218. That's 501-416-1218. Also, Boom Boom Floor Shine, servicing all of Southwest Arkansas. You need some TLC for your VCT, give them a call. They service everybody, whether it's from Hot Springs to Texarkana, Nashville, any of those surrounding areas in the Southwest Arkansas region. They have you covered. And then last but not least, Chinook Seedery. Head over to ChinookSeedery.com. Use referral code NSS_media for any of their 8 flavors. You can get one of the big bags, or you can get the sampler pack and try all of them out. Now, without further ado, we'll bring in the baseball guru, Kevin Bohannon. Kevin, almost to the end here. Had some craziness as always. Yeah, we're almost there. And I would say there was more craziness in baseball than there was on the softball side. I kept notes throughout regional of all regional play of all of the stuff that happened, the high notes that were the key notes that we needed to hit on. And my softball one was maybe about like that thick. My baseball one was probably about this thick. So plenty to talk about here on top of discussing the state tournaments.
Yeah, and we'll go through each bracket, of course, and everything. 6 host schools. There are 11 host fields. So we'll break for the first time in as long as I can remember, we have 16-team playoff in 5 of the 6 classifications. The only one that does not have 16 teams is Class 6A, of course, because they only have, 18 teams now. So they only still take the top 12. So, yeah, looking forward to it. There's some schools, especially, Viola, Armorel, Southside B Branch, Pulaski Academy didn't even make regional. So, you got some heavy hitters that aren't even making the state tournament this year. And that's just the way it goes this time. Any one-game setting in Class 1A through 4A, anything can happen. We saw that last week.
Yeah, no question about that. And looking at the 6A bracket there, so just kind of going off the top, you got Conway, Rogers Heritage. Conway has the bye, of course. Yep. Rogers Heritage Catholic, Fayetteville with the West 2 bye, Bryant Bentonville West, Rogers with the West 1 bye, Cabot Bentonville, Little Rock Christian with the Central 2 bye, and then last but not least, Harbor against North Little Rock. The first one that sticks out to me is probably that one at the bottom. As far as the second round matchups go, Little Rock Christian, they've been pretty hot in the back half here. Harbor is Harbor. I mean, they're always, how many times do we talk about just what the West does year in and year out? So plenty of great matchups here. I think that's probably the one that really stuck out to me when I was going through this bracket.
It definitely is, because there's a lot of history and I won't say tradition. There's a lot of history in some of these matchups. 2019, first time Harbor gets to a state championship game, North Little Rock beats them. And that was huge for them, for North Little Rock that season. So getting a Harbor, Little Rock Christian Academy, possible second round matchup. But in the first round, you're going to get Luke Cornelison against our man from North Little Rock, Jackson Estes. So going to have a really good matchup there. Cabot Bentonville, I don't think, Bentonville got the 5 seed. I think it's just Rogers on that side. I think Rogers, for the 6th straight season, they're in the driver's seat by winning the West. Fayetteville, Harbor, and Heritage had a 3-way tie for second place, just like Bryant, Cabot, and Little Rock Christian had a three-way tie for second place. It was really kind of weird to see it uniform on both sides. So, yeah, a possible Fayetteville-Bryant second-round matchup will be really good. And then the matchup we've all been waiting for all season, possibly in the semifinals, Conway and Fayetteville.
That's one that I was going to ask you about, at least maybe not next necessarily, but at some point in our talk here, because that's really been, I think Fayetteville, if I remember correctly, they started number one, and then pretty much Conway, after we picked back up on the rankings in mid-March, it's been the Wampus Cats, or at least around that time. And so, just kind of, obviously a lot has to happen, at least two games have to happen, two slates of rounds have to happen before that does. But how do you see that one, just from what we know so far?
Fayetteville will be able to throw Schaefer and Brissy and then have Delamar. So they got 3 pitchers for 2 games. That's the key for them right there. Conway has done the staff by committee. Hold on, Kyle. Sorry.
There you go.
Yeah. Fayetteville having 3 pitchers for 2 games, that's really good. Conway has done it by committee this season. Owen Davenport, of course. They've got the offense. Sean Cover, Max Hollins back healthy. There's just more talent on both those teams. So those are obviously the 2 favorites. Heritage could be a tough second-round matchup for Conway just because Brian Walker's team knows how to play in the postseason. They got to get past Caleb Short first, the Louisiana Tech signee from Catholic. So Catholic gets the 5. I don't think Bryant has a problem with Bentonville West. They're going to throw Eli Berry most likely to get a second-round matchup with Fayetteville, and then who knows what happens from there. I think there's both sides of the bracket are even, in my opinion, because you've got Cabot, Rogers, Christian, and Harbor on the bottom side, but you got Conway, Fayetteville, Bryant, and Rogers on the top side. Those are the top 8 teams. So anything could happen in Class 6A.
Then on down to 5A here. Man, I'll tell you, like, I was looking through, just kind of going back through both of the softball and baseball one. And I think every single year, I mean, every class you can point out, good matchups, obviously, but 5A and 3A, I feel like on both sides here, are always the ones that typically might have the most, like, as far as like the best ones. You look at like a Maumelle Van Buren matchup. I know Van Buren, they got hot and they've kind of cooled off. I think maybe lost 3 of their last 4 or last 5 here recently. But, what kind of Van Buren team are you going to get? Then also BB Russellville. We talked about, especially from the Central, BB as a 4 seed is no regular there coming out of that. So just kind of, what do you make of this? I feel like probably you could go down the line here for some good first round matchups, but obviously then you get deeper into it and it's really just kind of pick your poison here.
Exactly. So Maumelle and Van Buren have really kind of traded places. If you remember back, Van Buren, the last time these 2 teams played in the first round, Van Buren was a 1 seed down at Majestic Park. Maumelle was a 4 seed. I think Tag Andrews was a junior that year. Might have been a sophomore. So that's an intriguing matchup. Lake Hamilton and Marion. Marion's played well of late. They split with Greene County Tech to get that 3 seed. Lake Hamilton started out hot, kind of fizzled towards the end right there. And then, of course, you mentioned Russellville and BB. BB swept Maumelle. They shut them out in both games. That's just going to be a pitching extravaganza. That's going to be, if you like pitching and defense, circle that one at 3 o'clock at Bryant High School on Thursday. And as we mentioned earlier, the top half of the bracket is playing at Benton High School. Bottom half of the bracket in the first round is at Bryant. And then everything shifts to Benton for the quarter semis. And then, of course, the finals will be at UCA. But then Lakeside, Greene County Tech could be interesting. Greene County Tech's got some arms, but I think Lakeside's too good. The Greens, Greenwood and Greenbrier, I keep saying every year that these 2 should play each other in the playoffs, but they've always been in the same conference. With Greenbrier switching to the Central this year, we get the matchup. So Greenwood got the West 2 seed, Greenbrier the Central 3. Really, Kyle, honestly, I think the 2 matchups where it shouldn't be close is Valley View and Arkansas High. No offense to Arkansas High. Valley View is just really good. And I think Benton handles Alma pretty good. The other 6 matchups, I think, could be fairly close.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you too. Is Valley View that look? They're not. I mean, it's hard to say that, or I guess what I'm not trying to say hard. It's with one of those cases with them to where it's understandable that they might have taken a step back as far as maybe just like the talent and all that different stuff. But because you lose a guy like a Slade Caldwell in the first round, but I mean, they still have plenty of pieces, as we saw. You and I saw it at the Robinson Invitational firsthand. They've still been one of those great teams, and that's why they've been number one in Class 5A. So when you look at this Valley View squad, last year it was kind of like, okay, they're not going to be stopped by anybody. This year, you certainly have them the favorite until somebody else proves otherwise. But, whether it is a Maumelle on that other side of the bracket or another team, who is it that can really challenge the Blazers the most?
In a semifinal setting, maybe Benton. I think Benton could give them some problems because they pushed Valley View last year. I think it was a 1-0, 2-1 game. It was a one-run game. Benton's just really young. They got Sawyer Wilson. They got Marcus Bates. Both those are going to be D1 guys. You got Payne in center running things down. They've got a few JUCO guys that are going to be playing college baseball next year. So Benton has the talent. At one point, they were in the 5th or 6th spot in the Central. They ended up the 2 spot. So I think that benefited them well playing good baseball down the stretch. They got to 20 wins. Coach Ballesteri, one of the most respected coaches in the state. So I think Benton is a good matchup for them. The bottom half, Maumelle going into last season in the state tournament, the question was going to be, how do they score? And you can honestly ask the same question this year. When you go 2 games and have that much talent and you don't score a run, you got to question, where's their head at offensively? I think they're a better offensive team this year. Any coaches that I've talked to have told me that. So they're going to self-scout themselves. Nick Watson's done a great job his first year as the head coach. First conference title in Maumelle school history. So they're trying to get back to the state championship game, obviously get over the hunt. Russellville could give them problems in a state championship game on the bottom half of the bracket. So it'll be some really good matchups looking at the second round. Maumelle possibly against Lake Hamilton. Russellville, I think, could get to the semifinals. They have the talent, the pitching to get pretty far in this tournament.
Then heading on down to 4A. So now that we're in the teams that are the classifications that played regional tournaments, I'll go ahead and go through those. So Region 1, Shiloh Christian over Gravette. 2, Brookland over Lone Oak. 3, Robinson in a close one over Morrilton 6-5. And then also a 1-run game in Region 4, Arkadelphia over Magnolia. Now I know Magnolia, of course, was a 4 seed that took down Crossett 2-0. You also had the 4A3 regional, got tongue-tied there. CAC, a 4 seed, 6-4 over Bauxite. I know that might not be, as far as the seeding, I know CAC obviously played in a really, really tough conference there, as did Magnolia. But then also the 4A1, I thought, 4A2, you also had a 4 over Highland, Stuttgart over Highland, which I know Highland kind of snuck in and won.
Highland was a 3 seed coming out of their regular season. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And then they ended up winning their district. So the 4A1, which has been, that's one kind of like the similarities with softball and baseball. It's been a very deep conference for a while now. Both baseball and softball swept their conference. So you had a pitcher's duel there in the nightcap. I know of, I think that was in the first round with Gravette and Dardanelle. That was a really good one. So kind of some of the highlights from that one, maybe elaborating on those a little bit, or maybe some other points that I might have missed. What were some other top moments that you took from the regional play?
Yeah. The biggest thing, Brooklyn over Wynn, that was a really good first round matchup. That was one that could have been played in a state tournament, honestly. That it was that big. Starting in Region 1, the domination of Conference 1 going back 5-6 seasons now has been remarkable. We've always talked about the depth of that conference, and Morrilton was the top of the class in the 4A before they moved conferences this last classification cycle. So it was set up. Shiloh Christians just not really come out of nowhere. We expected them to be good under Alan Gum, but 37-4 in your 3 regional games. That they haven't been tested. They beat Valley View. I talked to the Valley View coaches after they got back from that Northwest Arkansas swing, and I was like, hey, give me your thoughts on Shiloh. I've talked to a lot of people, and they're really good. They got some young guys that can get on the mound and bring it. So Shiloh Christian can get to a state championship game. And, preseason, they were kind of on the outside looking in. We wanted to see how they would, respond to Coach Gumb's philosophies and everything. Jamie Beers did such a great job in that stopgap year that they just kept the train rolling. So that's been the biggest thing that I saw. Drew Nash, Gentry Pioneers, congratulations. First state tournament since 2012. That was huge for Anthony Nail. I was excited to see those guys get back at it. Congratulations. The first round of the state tournament. You get to play a tough one there. So, Brooke, let's see, Robinson, Bowman-Stein walked off Morrilton. That was huge. He hit one up the middle. He's usually a pull guy. I know Austin Allen joking with him. He was like, yeah, he actually hit it up the middle, which was a little shocking. So, little joke right there. Bowman-Stein's going to play college baseball. But really looking forward to the 4A state tournament now that we have 16 teams. There's always teams that get left out of this, Kyle. Every year when they were at 12 teams, it drove me kind of crazy, honestly. You still got some good teams that are left at home this year that could be playing in this. CrossFit being one of them. But as you said, Magnolia upset them in the first round. It didn't shock me that Magnolia won the first round game. I called it as one that could be on upset alert right there. So CAC, probably the youngest team in the state tournament this year. They're playing with house money. Let's see how far they can get. They ended up with a winning record coming out of that brutal 4A5 North. Now they get to face Brooklyn in the first round. So a couple of interesting matchups. Shiloh Christian and Nashville. When Nashville won 3 straight state championships, they won them over Shiloh Christian. I mean, just so to see that matchup in the first round is kind of nostalgic for me. Lone Oak and Harding Academy. This is, these two teams have been in the same conference before.
In most years, that would be like a crazy.
Yeah, you just think about it, and I'm like, wow, Lone Oak, those guys played out of their mind this year. Yeah. Weaker conference, yes, it was top heavy, but they did their job. They finished second in a regional. So kudos to the Jackrabbits. Haven't paid them much attention this year. And then Magnolia P Ridge. I think Magnolia can come out of that bottom side of the bracket. They have the talent to do that down there. They got a really good coaching staff. But the top half of the bracket is playing at Monticello on the first day. Bottom half is at UAM, and then everything shifts to Monticello for the quarter semis down in South Arkansas.
Yeah, and I love these matchups too. Like you said, I mean, you look at a 4 seed in Gentry and Drew Nash. I mean, he's been exceptional this whole year. You talked about him, and what is a team maybe Southside? I know is another that was kind of they were ranked just about. It seemed like all season last year, and Coach Went, he's done a great job there, and so what do you make of this? Like maybe who's maybe a slick, because you think about like a CAC, like at the 4 seed, like we talked about, a really tough conference there. Yeah. Who's a sleeper or two that you see in this 4A classification?
Warren, I know they're a 3 seed, but I'll say Warren. Gravit's tough. They finished second in the regional after finishing 3rd or 4th, I think, in the conference. So I think that's something right there. Robinson and Warren played in the second round last year after Warren upset Monticello. So that just depending on how pitching is lined up right there. Southside tied for their conference championship with Lone Oak. They got the tiebreaker right there. And then they finished 4th in a regional. So you get a conference champion playing against Robinson in the first round. That could be one to look out for. Drew Nash for Gentry. They're going to give everything they got to Arkadelphia. I think that could be a close game. Arkadelphia is really good. You just got some really good matchups looming in that second round. It's going to be really exciting on Friday down in Monticello.
Down in Class 3A, the Charleston Tigers over Greenland for Region 1, Harrisburg over Walnut Ridge for Region 2, Perryville over Dover in Region 3, and then Ashdown over Bismarck in Region 4. So things got a little crazy in the 3A4 regional. Bismarck, they took down DeWitt, then Genoa, then they lost by a run to Ashdown. There was a slugfest between Perryville and Episcopal in the 3A3. I know Manila missing from the 3A2 region regional was kind of a notable one for them being ranked, all season. And then in the first round, Boonville took down Atkins in the 3A1. So, no shortage of craziness there in Class 3A.
Yeah, we knew in Region 2 was going to be nuts as it is. You had 3 teams from that really tough 3A conference make it. The only team from the Conference 2 that made it was Melbourne. So, and they finished third. They won the consolation game. So you've got a Newport team that was at the top of the 3A for most of the season. They play Charleston round 1. That's going to be a really good matchup. Genoa Central, who'd been ranked number 2 all season, got upset by Bismarck in the second round of the conference tournament. I mean, that was just kind of blew my mind right there. So they get to play Dover. Coach McCarty and the Pirates get to be the home team that game. Top half is at Fayetteville, bottom half at Greenland, and then everything shifts to Greenland. But, yeah, Bismarck, Harmony Grove, those 2 teams have been in the same conference for a while, like we mentioned before. You get some teams that kind of shifted around in classification. Now they get to play each other again. Bismarck, Harmony Grove, not too far from each other. Pangburn, 9 out of the last 10 seasons they've made the state tournament. They've yet to win a first-round game. So this year they get to play Ashdown in the first round. So tough matchup. Greenland and Melbourne is probably my best matchup in the first round of the 3A right here. It's going to be interesting to see. Greenland did a really good job coming out of that Region 1, finishing second right there. That gives them a chance to get to a second round because Charleston was really good, and Boonville Walnut Ridge could be good as well.
Yeah, the Boonville Walnut Ridge, because that was one I know that you and I had actually talked, like Boonville in particular, that Elkins game. I know that was one before regionals that you had kind of talked about that could end up being in the Bearcats' favor possibly. And Walnut Ridge, that being in the first round, I mean, we're going to be treated to a treat right there. So I guess, will we get who will it be? Who will pitch in that first game for Melbourne? Will it be Wren?
No, Wren's not pitching.
That's right. He doesn't pitch anymore. Yeah. That's right.
So I'm not sure who's going to throw for them, but you could get Jace Washburn will throw for Boonville in the first round. So that'll give Walnut Ridge a little bit of issues right there. Smackover could beat Perryville. I feel confident in saying if you're going to look at a 4 over a 1, that would be it right there. Maybe Newport over Charleston. I think Chucktown's pretty good to get on a run right here. You could be Charleston, Genoa Central in the second round, but you could get a Walnut Ridge smack over in the second round. And then, Ashdown and Greenland, Ashdown and Melbourne, second round. You got 2 teams. Good thing it's not football playoffs, Kyle, because these teams would be having to travel from corner to corner to play each other.
Yeah. And you look at a smackover team as a 4 seed because, they came in as a 4 to their regional as well. And what is it? 9 runs in the final 2 innings. And so, that I know that, it didn't work out for them in the rest of regional, but still they punched their ticket to state. You never know what could happen, depending on how the ball bounces there. So then heading on down to 2A. So Lifeway Christian took down Hackett for a Region 1 championship. 2 was Cedar Ridge over Izard County. 3, Conway Christian over McCrory. And then 4, Woodlawn with Authority, Cabo, 24-3. Over Parker's Chapel. So, the 2A3, there was 2 4 seeds that Desark over Southside Batesville and then Baptist Prep over Palestine Wheatley. So, again, I know sometimes, the seeding maybe doesn't tell the whole story, but I will say that, did you see this coming though? Especially, no. I definitely with the Palestine Wheatley one, I did not. I will say that.
No, I did not. And I did not see Riverside getting beat by Izard County.
Yeah.
So now Hackett loses to Lifeway Christian in the finals. Now you get to play Riverside in the first round. So, Kyle, that gives us a possible matchup of Woodlawn and Riverside in the quarterfinals.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't draw it up any better. So, Murfreesboro could be a tough matchup for Conway Christian. Conway Christian, congratulations. You finished second or third in your conference. Then you win your regional. I mean, that's just the way it happens, man. So now you get to play a tough Murfreesboro team who finished number 1 in their conference, beat Spring Hill. Now they're finished 4th, and they just didn't have much depth going into it. We talked about Brody Maroon having a great season. So that should be a really good 4-1 matchup right there. I think Izard County takes care of business against Westside Johnson County. The Region 1 was a little bit weaker on the bottom side, so I don't see a problem with Cedar Ridge over Danville. Parker's Chapel and Desark, I think PC wins that one. Desart, upset the world when they won their first round game. And then McCrory down at the bottom of Spring Hill, that could be a really good matchup as well. They'll likely get Lifeway Christian in the back in the second round. So a lot of good, intriguing second round matchups right there in Class 2A Baptist Prep. Congratulations, Cody Perrin. Those guys, shocked the world beating Palestine Wheatley. Palestine Wheatley, of course, is hosting this Class 2A state tournament. Won't even get to play in it. I know they were ranked top 5 all season in our Super 7 poll. So they'll have to just chase foul balls and do everything else. So it's like, first round game, that's what you got to do. You got to win it in regional. That's unfortunate. Like we said, a lot of good teams are being left at home this week. Just that's the way ball bounces in baseball sometimes. But yeah, Woodlawn, Riverside, second round. Get your popcorn ready.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I'll say this about Palestine Wheatley is if rain does, which it looks like the weather's gonna be pretty nice. Yeah. I mean, a little hot. It's gonna be low 90s, high 80s. But if there is any rain, that place held up, and that's probably why they're hosting it for the second year in a row, because they were able to. That was the only place where they were able to get games in. That one day when it was like really, really nasty pretty much all across the state. So I guess probably the biggest question is, now that Woodlawn is essentially on a redemption, whatever kind of tour you want to call it. I know that we talked about Riverside. They've got the arms to do it, all these different teams. But do you think that really when it comes down to it that anybody's going to be able to stop this Woodlawn redemption tour?
I don't think they will, but and it'll look at like this because Riverside's going to have a tougher first round matchup. No disrespect to Baptist Prep. I think Woodlawn rolls in that one. They could win it by 10 runs. They'll adjust. They'll make the adjustments needed no matter who's on the mound for Baptist Prep. So I think, if it does, I think the state championship could be determined in that game, honestly. No disrespect to anybody else out there. McCrory, if they get to the finals with Will Rushing, can do it. And then you got a few other teams down there that can do it as well. But I think Woodlawn is just on a mission right now. And they did, they beat Parker Chapel, I think it was 14-2 in the regular season. And then they put up 24 in the regional final. So that just shows you where their head is at right now. Tate Hall is one of the best hitters in the state, no matter what classification. He's top 5, top 3 in RBI total for that. He's got 54 RBIs on the season. So, they're rolling right now. Plus, they've got couple of lefties on the mound that can give people a lot of trouble.
And then last but not least in Class 1A, Region 1, Norfolk. Congratulations to the Party Crashers. First ever regional championship in school history.
Yep.
Taking down the Scranton Rockets. Hillcrest over Mark Tree. Region 2 had a few surprises in it, to say the least, K-Bo. And then Region 3, St. Joe over Nemo Vista. And then Region 4, the Taylor Tigers. Have they ever won a regional before? Have they ever won regional or any kind of championship before? One or two over Mount Ida. These two teams very, very familiar with each other. It's crazy to think, how many Mount Ida, they might have a one or two under their belts if it wasn't for the Taylor dynasty that just continues to roll. But yeah, let's talk about Region 2. That was pretty crazy just because, and nothing against like Hillcrest or Mark Tree, but I just don't know if that's who you technically called this being in the final.
Exactly. And, Hillcrest, they had been kind of outside looking in, maybe in that 7-8 spot all season, just because they play their conference. They really don't play anybody else. And when they beat Westside in the second round, I was like, does it surprise me? Yes, but not really. They had the potential to do this over the past couple of years, but none of the 1 seeds made it to the finals in this bracket in the 1A2 region. That was I think the most shocking thing because Concord beat Armorel in the first round 7-5. That was the biggest upset anywhere. Nobody saw that coming. And then Mark Tree, of course, they won 14-4 over Viola in the first round. Then it was 13-1. So, they scored 27 runs in 2 games. So, Mark Tree, I know we mentioned them in the preseason pod that, they have some talent, can get, just depending on how they do in the season, if they don't have any injuries, get through the regional tournament, conference tournament, they could do something. So, yeah, it was really shocking to see who ended up right there. And then, of course, Westside got the 3 seed out of there. So, now Westside gets to be a 3 seed in the state tournament as they try to get back to UCA. Now, these games are being played at Harrison up at Equity Bank Sports Complex. up there. So they're split them on 2 fields up there. So, yeah, Nemo Vista and Westside, first round. Got to love it. 2 teams that know how to get to a state championship game.
And that's the biggest question because you've got the 2 state finalists, Taylor and Westside, on the same side of the bracket, which, if that happens,
yeah.
Right. And Norfolk. So, Nemo's in that one. So that's kind of the question that Jared and I talked about because the softball side, you've got, most of the top teams that we've had in our rankings in 1A are on one side of the bracket. Then you look at, a St. Joe on the other side. I know Scranton took a big loss, but they're going to be, as a 2 seed, they're going to be very motivated. Mount Ida, of course, that lost to Taylor in its regional. So, how do you see that side of the bracket playing out?
St. Joe and Scranton could be a really, really good quarterfinal matchup. I think it ends up being St. Joe and Mount Ida on that side. Hillcrest may sneak up. We'll see. But neither Hillcrest will roll over Guy Perkins. Mount Ida should roll over Jasper. That shouldn't be an issue. So, I think the winner of that game may get to the state finals. We'll see. It depends on how deep St. Joe's go, what they have to do. Because Scranton and Bearden's been scrappy the last couple of years. They won a first-round game last season. They finished second to Taylor, of course, which is no harm done in that one. But that could be a tougher second-round matchup for St. Joe. But, the bottom side loaded, once again, West Side, Nemo Vista, Norfolk. So the intriguing second-round matchup in that one is Norfolk and West Side. And Columbia Christian got in the tournament. They're hosting, by the way, which congratulations to them. West Side and Norfolk have been in the same conference for a long time. It was those 2 in Viola. So now they have the potential to be a second-round matchup. That's the stuff you want to see. That's like a Riverside Woodlawn matchup in the second round. And then Mark Tree playing with house money right now. They'll take care of Midland, and then they have the chance to slay the Dragon in the second round with Taylor. So a lot of good, potentials in the second round, but you still got to like Taylor. They can get you looking at a Taylor, West Side, Taylor, Norfolk semifinal.
Well, there you have it. It is it's all going to happen Thursday through Saturday, weather permitting. Like I said, weather permitting. We always have to throw that in there this time of year, but going to be a lot of great matchups. I'm going to try and head out to Benton at some point. I've got, and just like Cabo, he and I both are also covering the Razorbacks, so we've got an extra heavy slate. So I don't know that I'm going to be able to make it out there, but we'll of course certainly be following. But I'm going to try to either on Thursday or Friday and see if I can stop by for a game or two. But another season down almost, Cabo. It's crazy to think about, but of course anything you can find a lot of the brackets, of course, on High School on SI's website for all of those, and you can kind of follow those each day as the teams advance to stay up to date on that. But other than that, I guess we got next week. We'll kind of do kind of like we did with regionals, and then the preview for state champions, state tournaments this week. We will recap the top moments from the state tournament, and then preview the state finals games. And then Cabo, you've got 3 games on PBS this year, don't you? I've got 3 softball games, and you're doing.
I think we're back to back all 3 days. So looking forward to that. Thanks to Bobby Swafford once again, including us in that. That's always a really fun time of the year because you get to see a lot of people that you haven't seen. It's kind of like football. You get to see a lot of people, media, coaches that you don't get to see quite often. And I think they're going to, and I haven't confirmed this, but there's going to be a little added, not kink, but I don't know if they're doing replay this year, but they may be doing it.
I would not put that past Matt Johnson. He likes replays a lot. And so that would be really cool to see.
Yeah, so. Not that there's been any crazy calls that have, decided state championship games over the past few years, but you're playing at a Division I facility that has the ability to do that. Why not take advantage of it? Just like they've done with every other sport. They do it in football, so why not do it in baseball?
Yeah, and of course that's not Matt Johnson being M&M, the co-owner that does the broadcasting. That the broadcasting teams don't decide that, but I know that he has been big on replays, and Will Watkins, of course, who they do some kind of like some working together and everything as far as all the ins and outs that go with broadcasting, and the both of them I know have been working a lot on replay stuff. So that'd be great to see that added to the spring sports as well. So. Well, that will do it for episode 75. Again, thank you all for tuning in. We've got a couple more episodes here before we wrap this thing up for the season. But you can, of course, listen on Apple, Spotify, and iHeartRadio into the audio platforms if you prefer to not see our pretty faces on YouTube. But other than that, we will catch you next week. For Kevin Bohannon and all of us here, I'm Kyle Sutherland. We'll take care. We'll see you next time.